It's time to talk real politics, okay? No more of that namby-pamby stuff. All right, we need to be responsible. A predictable but nonetheless extremely welcome endorsement came in last night. You've all probably seen Taylor Swift. You know, people have mixed opinions on this. I'm approaching this from a fully utilitarian perspective. The white woman vote, white women just barely came out in favor of Trump in the past two elections. We really, really want that lean in, should have come sooner. I think this was a decent enough time. Remember how in the debate, Donald Trump completely threw idiot VP JD Vance under the bus? The moderator for the debate, or one of the moderators, was like, JD Vance said that you would veto any nationwide abortion ban. And Trump was like, JD Vance, I don't know him. I don't know the guy. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't want to. And then from then on refused to answer that question directly multiple times, even though he was directly asked over and over. JD Vance is a massive liability to the campaign. I want you to keep that in mind as we read this. Like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. If you haven't already, now is a great time to do your research on the issues at hand and the stances these candidates take on the topics that matter to you the most. As a voter, I make sure to watch and read everything I can about their proposed policies and plans for this country. Recently, I was made aware that AI of me falsely endorsing Donald Trump's presidential run was posted to his site. It really conjured up my fears around AI and the dangers of spreading misinformation. That was such a big brain move of Donald Trump, considering Taylor Swift has been one of the only public figures to successfully mobilize legislators against AI. Remember, they had the fake AI images of her getting like railed by football players in the field or something like that, or she was getting like groped by a crowd. I don't know. But she, like, the blowback from that immediately led to like legislation. Anyway, so very smart. It brought me to the conclusion that I need to be very transparent about my actual plans for this election as a voter. The simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth. I'll be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the 2024 presidential election. I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them. I think she is a steady-handed, gifted leader, and I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we are led by calm and not chaos. I was so heartened by and impressed by her selection of running mate Tim Walz, who has been standing up for LGBTQ+ rights, IVF, and a woman's right to her own body for decades. I've done my research. I've made my choice. Your research is all yours to do, and the choice is yours to make. I also want to say, especially to first-time voters, remember that in order to vote, you must be registered. I also find it's much easier to vote early. I'll link where to register and find early voting dates and info in my story. With love and hope, Taylor Swift, childless cat lady. Unbelievable. The damage JD Vance has done. Genuinely incredible. For those who don't know, Taylor Swift is a childless cat lady. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? This falls in line with what I guess I need to call, or I need to term, like the incel right, where open contempt of women is becoming a more aggressive talking point, because more and more of the GOP messaging falls in line to meet the interests of the most active propagators of their propaganda, and a lot of those people are like incel online neo-Nazis. So yeah, okay, you all want to spoil, you all want to jump ahead. Yeah, we get it, thank you. I know. Elon Musk responded to this endorsement with a comment that is sure to win over the much fought over white woman demographic. Fine, Taylor. You win. I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life. It's pretty unambiguously a rape joke. I don't really think there's any other way in calling that. It's the wealthiest man in the world and one of the chief right-wing thought leaders, though calling anything he does a thought is maybe a bit generous. Right-wing disinfo leaders. I don't know. But yeah, the response here is, and this is a really common thing. If you're a girl, and I know at least one of you people have that condition, you have gone online at some point and offered a completely innocuous position, and a guy has responded something to the effect of he wants to rape you. Like, you've experienced that. It's not uncommon. It's a very common default response that some men engage in. We don't endorse this behavior, usually as a way of punishing a woman for being a woman. And that's all this is. It's retaliatory sexualization. Is it a real threat to her? Obviously not. Don't be stupid. Of course not. You know, he's not actually saying he's going to. It's just like a casual, you're a woman, that makes you less than me. The threat of sexual violence is something you fear, but I do not, and I will remind you of it. That's it. It's also, in addition to being, I don't need to say it's creepy. It's obviously creepy. Deeply insane thing to say. Like, and I can't believe this is the standard by which I'm grading it, but If you wanted to be rapey and misogynistic to Taylor Swift in response to her endorsement of Kamala Harris, I genuinely think that if you could like test out a bunch of different ways of doing that in a sliding scale, this would be exceptionally low IQ and weird. Does that make sense? Like, this is, like, I'm being serious here. There are so many veiled ways of engaging in this behavior, and Elon Musk is genuinely so stupid that it, like what the is this? Fine, you win, I'll give you a child. You know, Elon Musk also did this to AOC. Back when AOC and Elon Musk were beefing more often on Twitter, by which I mean Elon was creepily responding to and quote tweeting everything she said, he did the same thing with her. He was liking and responding to like memes of him getting her pregnant and them being in a relationship. It's literally what 12-year-old boys do in like online games. It's being normalized. I know some people despair at like 1/3 likes, but for one, Elon bots the shit out of his likes. That's not a secret. Like, everything's botted. It doesn't mean anything. And for two, this is not getting picked up favorably by the media, okay? There is no way to cover that. How do you even defend this from a right-wing perspective? Like, every celebrity site, every tabloid rag, everything. It's like, oh, so in response to Taylor Swift endorsing Kamala Harris, Elon Musk, like, threatened to rape her. How the do you spin that? You can't. And this is what I mean by the incel right. More and more, the right is capitulating to rhetoric that would have, it's not just optics poison. This would have been considered not only unacceptable, but deeply embarrassing even just a few years ago. Even back in 2016. Are you kidding me? It's insane. Like even towards the beginning, like the first Trump administration, it's recursive. The signal decays. As the right wing gets high off its own supply more and more and more, you get messaging like this, you know? If all you do is dog whistle sexism and racism, eventually people get tired of the dog whistles and they get louder and louder about the actual underlying sentiment. I guess what I'm saying is, Elon, keep posting. As your lawyer, I encourage you to keep posting. It's not just Elon, by the way. Kanye, I saw you post this. I already had it tabbed up. That's the mark of a true professional. Take a look at Dave Rubin.
Let's talk a little bit about how this fits into the pop culture part of this, because pop culture is a huge driver of the cultural narrative. Well, here's the tweet from Colin Rugg about the Taylor Swift thing, and we'll get back to it in a second. So as we referenced before, Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris on Instagram after the debate on ABC, proudly calls herself a childless cat lady. Elon Musk, who they hate, he saw that and he wrote this: "Fine, Taylor, you win. I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life." So he's
it's epic trolling, you know? It's like an epic troll.
He's mocking, he's exposing the ridiculousness.
They have to spin this, but like, what?
Right, it's like, Taylor Swift, you are a young, pretty girl.
She's
do
like
you know
in her 30s.
What the gang members from Venezuela do to young, pretty girls? It ain't pretty.
Please, as your lawyer, Dave Rubin, the right wing, I'm encouraging you to keep posting this shit, please. Anytime a woman disagrees with you, you should look her in the eyes and say, like, you're gonna get raped. I think this is a phenomenal strategy that you're running with, you know? That's great. It's literally like the #1 thing, because this is all they think about women. I need you, and Dave Rubin being gay has literally nothing to do with this, right? In the same way that Candace Owens being black has nothing to do with her espousing neo-Nazi propaganda. Like, you know, bigotry transcends identity markers in a lot of cases. It's a fascist thing. Weirdly, it's not even like a fascist thing necessarily. I would say that it's a further degradation of it. Fascists pretend to venerate women. You can take a look at old Nazi propaganda, like the original Nazis, you know? Were they sexist? Oh yeah. 100%. Were they super callous towards women's rights and like sexual assault and stuff? Absolutely they were. But the rhetoric, the outward propaganda was that they venerated women's role and honored their role as providers in the home. Now, that has always been bullshit, but I think there's a meaningful difference between that veneer of paternalistic sexism and open, seething, contemptuous hatred of women. And this is why I call it the incel right, because when a significant portion of your messaging and your like campaign mobilization is being pushed by people who are genuinely, like, violently contemptuous of women. We're talking like incel school shooter types, the kinds of people who like fantasize about carving women up. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this, okay? It doesn't, like, you go on 4chan for 8 seconds, it really doesn't take long to find like violent fantasies about women. You know, it takes no time at all. It's really, really, really common. These are like message leaders in the far right now. So you can no longer do the paternalistic sexism thing. You can't say stuff like, you know, I think that, you know, women would just be happier being venerated in their traditional place in the home, when the average person trying to articulate that message hates women and like jerks off to cuckold interracial porn, and they think that every single living woman above the age of 13 has had sex with 72 black guys. They think this. They're insane. I guess what I'm saying is that men are just too emotional to get involved in politics. Really, though, like, I want to take a moment to toot my own horn. I know. I've made you also accustomed to me being modest, but like, I'd like to break from that for a moment and talk positively about myself. I have been talking about the right's obsession with interracial cuckoldry for a really long time. And when I first talked about it to a much smaller audience than I now have, I feel like I lost a lot of people with the bit. I think that I wasn't as good at conveying the truth of the message, but as time has gone on, I feel like this has grown to be a more mainstream talking point. The idea that for a lot of people on the right, they are legitimately like psychotically obsessed with interracial cuckoldry and with the idea of women withholding sex from them, sexual insecurity being like the bedrock of their ideology. And I think it's gotten more and more obvious over time. And how much more obvious could you get with that than Elon Musk, the most divorced man on earth, who recently lost custody of his children to Grimes, if I remember correctly, basically like, oh, you disagree with me? I'll you. And then right-wing thought leaders, again, if you can call them that, being like, haha, he epically trolled Taylor Swift with the joke. Really, though, Taylor, you don't want to get raped, do you? This would have been unconscionable not long ago from anyone. Right-wing, left-wing, it doesn't matter. This, like, level of discourse is beyond the pale. You know, it is genuinely like, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to have imagined, I think. I totally agree, yeah. You know, fascism used to be pushed from a top-down, like institutionalized, centrally controlled framework. You know, you have the party leader. That's how it worked traditionally. Nowadays, most of the like most of the messaging discipline, it's just literally like psychos online. There's no cohesion, there's no message discipline, there's no optics check. And as stupid as they are, go up to the average Republican woman and feed them some of this dialogue, this discourse, and they would be repulsed by it. Even a lot of Republican men. I promise you, the average Republican voter, as dumb as rocks as they are, the average Republican voter, if you demonstrated behavior like this around them, it would be like they would not tolerate it, because it's inhuman. It's psychotic. It's inhuman and it's psychotic, you know? It's crazy. So yeah, I guess to summarize, as your lawyer, I encourage you to keep posting this shit, please. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm so sorry. I forgot the punchline to all of this. I forgot the punchline, okay? J.D. Vance, the guy who has spurred the childless cat lady stuff that was referenced in Taylor Swift's endorsement of Kamala Harris, responds to her endorsement.
We admire Taylor Swift's music, but I don't think most Americans, whether they like her music or fans of hers or not, are going to be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who I think is fundamentally disconnected from the interests and the problems of most Americans.
Incredible. Incredible. You know for a fact Kamala Harris is going to use that in their campaign ad 100%, right? Like, there's going to be an ad like, you know, they show Donald Trump and like scare piano string JD Vance's audio. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's extraordinary how much of a liability he is. He is a walking campaign ad for Kamala Harris, 100%. It's wild to me how popular she is that he has to say he likes her music. It's so Jover for them. They are fully aware of the fact that they are fighting tooth and nail over women, you know? It's an uphill battle. It always brings me back to the etymology of the word misogynist and how it specifically is removed from the basic idea of sexism that we know, because it's an irrational hatred of women to the point that it made you unapproachable. Yeah, it's one of the best examples I've ever seen of how etymology can help you understand the modern day, where the term misogyny, if you trace it back to its origins, everyone was sexist 2,000 years ago. I'm sorry to say, okay? Not much in the way of like gender egalitarianism in the, yeah. So what is a misogynist then? Why have a term for something everyone believes? Well, a misogynist was somebody whose hatred of women was so pronounced and so embarrassingly over the top that it was a liability socially. You know what I mean? Like, you have the wise, respectable sexist who just thinks women are lesser but kind of conducts their affairs in a respectable way. And then you have the misogynist who's like frothing at the mouth. You would basically say like incel today. That's what you would say basically, like a person who was so sexist that it manifested in a socially, in a socially like undesirable fashion. And they're kind of hitting that note again.